Before we begin, thank you very much to Merrick Sage for joining the Patreon campaign. Thank you very much for the help. Thank you for the contribution. Means the world to me that you allow me to continue doing this for everybody. To continue posting a daily video, which is 1640 something. I've had so many shout outs lately to cover. I do not know what number day I am at the moment. It has been a long time though, and thank you for allowing me to continue. So before we get into today's video, something really important that I have to mention. Tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will actually be appearing on my friend's Twitch stream. We are going to be doing a charity stream for the creator of He-Man, who is currently suffering through a lot of medical expenses that will probably follow him for the rest of his life. For that, we are going to be doing this quick little impromptu charity thing. I'm hanging out at my friend Momo's stream. I will link her Twitch channel in the description below, so you can go follow her there, be notified when we go live tomorrow. It is going to be me and famed comic book reviewer Linkara, someone who fate has brought me together with several times over the years, but usually waits 3 or 4 years in between each time. But now, stronger forces, i.e. mutual friends, are trying to change that. So it's going to be me and him hanging out tomorrow. We're just going to be talking a whole bunch of nerdy stuff, talking our hyperfixations, and hopefully raising a little bit of money for a good cause. So everyone go tune in for that. I expect all of you there. Every single one of you. Now, let us actually get to the topic of the day. I went back looking through videos past where because I think to myself, every now and then I do videos where I go, we can do a part 2 of this, and then I never get around to it. So I was looking through old thumbnails, trying to get an idea of like, okay, what could we revisit? What would be fun to kind of check back in on? And I realized that this video that you see here, which covered the announcement of Studio Series Gamer Edition, was posted in 2023 on March 8th. 3 years to the day. So I thought, okay, we can work with this, because what happened? What happened to what at the time felt like one of the fresher ideas that Hasbro had come up with in years? Okay, instead of like milking like the original cartoon for all it's worth, instead of going to all these random iterations over the years, why not we go into the media that we have a ton of work in but have never actually done toys for? That is the video games. Outside of a sparse amount during the early generations run, they really have never tapped their video game history to create their new toys. And that is a glaring omission, because there are really cool designs across the video games. So they decided to go with War for Cybertron, which is technically known as like the first big success game. You know, that's like the first game that did like actual numbers and actually got a sequel. So we're going to take a look at what has happened here, because where is it now? Like, honestly, where is it now? And it started so strong, didn't it? Like, it started off on an incredibly strong foot. The Optimus Prime that started Gamer Edition, I genuinely felt was like one of the best toys of that year. It's a phenomenal figure. I love the transformation, the heavy set of the Optimus Prime. The toy is one of the rare Voyagers that felt its price point, not just in how well it was designed, but just in size. And then when you retooled it later on and fixed up the proportions a little bit, it got even better. Now, as I record this as well as its counterpart Megatron toy are currently available at Target as part of the More Than Meets the Eye collection. So they are still present, relevant, but they are no longer marked Gamer Edition. And I think that's just because it became a stigma. To look at the rest of the line, you have things like the Megatron. And the Megatron is not nearly as well received, aside from the fact that it just doesn't feel nearly as substantial or look as good as the Optimus Prime. You've got weird things like those tabs on the back of its legs that kept its knees from working, and no one could really figure out why they ever did that in the first place, if it was a misassembly. It was just odd. Like, all of us have this Megatron have clipped knees because of this. And that was kind of the run of Studio Series. When you look at the rest of Wave 1, like, you've got the side swipe that wasn't really that great. You've got the barricade that everyone hated. Everyone hated that barricade. And then they went and decided, hey, that's the toy we're going to retool and release again. Good thinking. And then you had the Bumblebee. And I wasn't a fan of the first War for Cybertron Bumblebee toy they released, but it was better than this thing turned out to be. This thing doesn't have a waist section. This Bumblebee didn't have a waist to speak of. So the rest of the wave, like, you had Optimus Prime, one of the best toys of the year, and then all these guys who just felt incredibly underbaked. Either just, like, not really thought, like, the design, engineering-wise, not thought out well enough to really improve upon, or to really, like, smooth out the process and the engineering, streamline it. No, they were a mess. You did start to see improvements. They finally figured out that maybe we actually want them to hold the guns and not do like the replacement forearm thing. That's part of the gameplay. I understand that, but also it felt really bad for the toys to do that. So they did start fixing that, but the toys they released were not great. I mean, they had the improvement, but it was this Ratchet mold. And okay, like, the Ratchet mold looks fine outside of the gigantic flaps hanging off its back. You know, and the vehicle mode looks fine. Oh my god, this thing is not well engineered. The transformation is not pleasant. I mean, it's not fun to do. I don't like the weird floaty shoulders it has that aren't actually its shoulders. I hate when they do that. Just overall, just not a great toy. This thing shelf warmed horribly, and they had the Ironhide coming out afterwards. Oh boy, good luck to it. And it's still continuing. Right now, the last vestiges of this line I can find is Thundercracker, because they at the very least got all three of the Seekers out. And I don't like this design either. Like, there's elements of it that are more screen accurate, but I think it looks overall worse than the original one does. I don't know, like, it just felt like they didn't do as good of a job, and I still hate this gigantic beehive that they put into the chest. And I understand there's reasons to justify it, but sometimes you don't have to strive for, like, complete total accuracy to a single version. You can fudge things so it doesn't look like crap. That is completely viable, too. I don't know. It just feels like they led with a lot of, like, major characters instead of the really cool designs. And I feel like if they had focused on the really cool designs first, and then trickled out the major characters, it's just kind of like mid-figures that mixed in, I feel like the reception wouldn't have been nearly as bad. But it felt like they were in a rush to get all the big characters out, as if they almost knew that this line would not last beyond, you know, a few big names, Barricade, and then Seekers. It feels like they knew that's as much as they would do, and then just shelve the whole thing. While these were being released, we got the Reactive figures. Here's a video game that got canceled, and these toys absolutely clowned Studio Series Gamer Edition. We got 4 figures in this run, and honestly, I feel like all 4 are better than most of the Gamer Edition toys. And these weren't even technically labeled Gamer Edition. I did a whole video about that too. We've been paying attention to Gamerverse on this channel. Or Gamer Edition, rather. And we've noticed that it really did, like, hit a bad patch immediately with just, like, low quality releases. And then I did a whole video again about how Reactivate just made the Gamer Edition look bad by comparison. It really does. Like, the Optimus Prime is amazing, but all the other toys that also came in this line were also pretty good. They all kind of worked really, really well and had really nice looks to them. And then you had whatever they did with the, oh my god. Then you had whatever they did with the studio series. To date, as of right now, the only things we got for studio series in 2025 were repaints and retools of existing studio series figures. You know, it was either the reissues at Walmart that are, or Target that are coming out now, or it was the remains of the previous molds. So Ironhide and the Seekers. And that was it. That was absolutely it. The only exceptions were we got the Devastation Optimus Prime, which again was not labeled Studio Series, and neither is Gamer Edition, and neither is the Bumblebee, which is going to come out this year. Even though these are literally based on the video games, it's almost as if they acknowledge that Gamer Edition went over so poorly as a subset. They don't even want to put it on the box anymore. They just want to release it as an Optimus, a Bumblebee, and just let it ride and just see how it does. It's unfortunate that the Devastation Optimus Prime, Gamer Edition or not, was also a very poorly received figure. And while this Bumblebee looks like it's going to be a very good toy, we do acknowledge it is a very small figure that is going to have to justify being $27.99 at retail, or if this ends up being like an A-level exclusive, it would end up being like $29.99. That's going to be brutal. That's going to be hard to explain. So I did the digging. I did the digging just to make sure. Here's the list of toys that we know are coming out for Studio Series that we've discovered through various listings or previews. Like, we know these are like what they've got in mind. And the thing you'll notice is the Devastation Bumblebee is on there, and like literally everything else, nothing. And you see the Last Night figures on this list. And when the Last Night is getting toys before Gamer Edition, you know this went bad. When a movie that poorly received is getting toy support and not the subline that we had so much more room for, that's a bad sign. That's a really bad sign. As of right now, it looks like Hasbro has completely canned the idea of Gamer Edition. I would argue doing Gamer Edition for games that aren't even commercially available anymore, thank you Activision for letting that deal lapse, I would argue that doing that is what hurts the idea the most. Like, why are you releasing toys for a video game that looks really nice and has a nice style to it, but let's admit wasn't a gigantic seller, when there's no current way to even buy the games and drum up the interest? It'd be one thing if you could do like, hey, Steam, we got this game on your platform. Do you mind putting it on like a 50% off, or like a 70% off crazy discount sale, so a lot more people pick up on it and notice it, and then we'll put out these toys for it? Nothing like that. Nothing like that at all. So you miss out on a lot. And I just feel like the timing of it was terrible. If they could have gotten the rights back and gotten the games back released, you got a different story. But that's not what happened. And we're going to, since this is going to be probably the last time we get to talk Gamer Edition, unless Hasbro comes out and says, oh yeah, like 2027, we're just loading you down with toys from the video games. We're going to take a look at a few things that I really wish we had gotten. I liked the Grimlock they did during the Generations run, but I do acknowledge everyone's complaints about, it feels very hollow, etc., etc. I wouldn't have minded them giving another shot at it at Leader Class. But then again, we've had so many Leader Class Dinobots, and now we're getting a Studio Series Commander Dinobot. It might be a little bit much. Might be going to that well a few too many times. I wanted the Quake. I mean, look how sick that Quake looks. I'm not even a huge fan of Quake, despite my curious history with the toy. But the fact that, the fact that we got designs this cool and they didn't do them. This is what I meant. This is what I mean. you do the characters that have a little bit of name value mixed in with the big ones. That way, like, maybe you don't have Megatron in Wave 1, maybe you throw in someone else, a Quake, just because it's a really cool looking character. And then later on, Wave 2 of Gamer Edition, that's when you drop the Megatron. Also, that gives it like 2 more months worth of baking period. Maybe you might make that look a little bit better, make the knees work. That basic toy strategy, right? I know a lot of people wanted the Warpath, and the Warpath again would have been really, really cool to get. I would have absolutely been in favor of that. I also just noticed that all the stuff that I'm listing here are tanks. Yeah, we did Grimlock, and now I'm just going on a tear of tanks. Because Quake is a tank, Warpath is absolutely a tank, and the one I wanted the most is technically a tank, and that was Demolishor. What a great idea this would have been. You imagine if we had gotten Demolishor instead of Sideswipe during the early run of these toys? And that way you had a little bit of a way of testing the waters for potential Armada Demolishor release. Because so many fans ask for it, but Hasbro is still very gun-shy about these things for some reason. So this would have been a great way of gauging actual interest in the character using a similar design that also shares the name and the overall aesthetic of it. This would have been a great idea. This would have, and again, you dot in good designs to match up with big name characters. You don't blow the whole thing right away. How about completing the Insecticons? I really like the Fall of Cybertron kickback toy that came out. I'm really salty that they never did the other the Insecticons. Why? Why just kickback? Like, why would you even, like, put it on the design table of, like, we're doing kickback. Okay, when are we doing the other Insecticons? Who? I don't get it. It's like saying we're only going to release Swoop. We're going to do Swoop in this toy line and none of the other Dinobots. You don't do that. I want the other ones. I just want the other ones. Here's what I really wanted. Oh my god. We had a chance. We could have had greatness. Imagine taking the modern combiner design philosophy and applying it to the Fall of Cybertron Combaticons. You give Onslaught a big framework to transform into, so he doesn't have to be this weird potato of a robot. You give him like a good solid team and aesthetic where they don't have to like horribly sacrifice trying to fit in leg and arm combinations. They don't have to scramble city, so we can just make them a good leg or a good arm. This would have been so cool. It's such a cool design for Bruticus. The individual team members are such cool designs. And the fact that that's just going to be left on the table now. Because how cool would it have been? Hasbro's on this big kick of like, well, we're only doing one combiner a year. Okay, sure, I can go with that. How about you do Defensor next year? You're gonna start Defensor this year because we're already got most of the Combaticons. So you'll probably see Defensor, little pieces of him announced at some point this year. But then, like, after Defensor is done, you jump over to Studio Series to do your next combiner. You just have that. And then, let Generations do something completely different without clogging the shelves for another combiner for like a 5th year in a row. Give it a break so it can do other things that don't involve combining. And then you do your new Bruticus over here. And then you jump back over to to Generations with a combiner, and then you do like the Technobots. So things like it would have been a great little way of shifting things up, and that's off the table now. This is off the table too. See, when Studio Series announced, hey, we're gonna start doing the Titans, it just kind of fired up my interest again in getting Warship Triptychon. That's both Fall of Cybertron and Transformers Prime. would have been awesome. Oh, it would have been so cool. We ain't getting it. We ain't getting it. Why did they focus so much on the crap designs and leave the really cool things on the table forever? I will never understand the logic behind it. But that is where we stand. Exactly 3 years later, it really looks like the tail end of, like, just the last surviving remnants of Studio Series are what's on a Target shelf right now. Some Thundercrackers and maybe some very, very minorly repainted Megatrons. That's your lot. It's a sad, sad way for a potentially enormous source of new toys to go out, but it's how it goes. Sometimes you just screw it up. It happens. So, let me know what you thought of Gamer Edition in the comments below, because it does feel like we're done. So we can talk about it in the past tense now, unless Hasbro really decides to surprise everyone and go, the listings for this year were fake. Here's all the game toys. But I don't see that happening. So, you guys let me know. And I will thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.